Hello and welcome to episode 99 of the How to Survive podcast. This week, the story of a man who has an obsession with dead bird life, a penchant for secretly watching women while they shower, and a creepy attachment to his mother which runs so deep it strays into the outright psychotic. That man's name is Chris Morris, and he joins me now to talk about Alfred Hitchcock's 1960 classic, Psycho.
I've always said a man's best friend is his mother, Joe.
Quite right. Now, this week we're going to talk about Psycho.
Yes.
We're going to talk about other movies in the Psycho franchise as well. Now, those are rubbish. So there are spoilers ahead for all of them.
Yeah, I've not seen anything other than the 1960 original.
You're not missing anything. But we will be spoiling Psycho. So if you haven't seen Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, or indeed the Gus Van Sant 1998 remake, which is a frame-for-frame retelling with the same story and the exact same script, now is the time to pause, go away and watch it, and then return to us ready to be spoiled rotten. Now, you've had 56 years, 57 years now, and this makes it our oldest film we've ever covered.
Yes, I believe so.
And the only black and white one, I think.
Quite possibly, yeah.
And the one that you kind of have to do before you hit 100 episodes of a horror movie podcast.
Yeah, I mean, then again, you could probably argue that covering Psycho on a horror movie podcast is cliche, and we shouldn't have bothered. But here we are, episode 99. Before episode 100 next week, we wanted to get Psycho out of the way.
Yeah. Get it out of the way. Like, one of the best films ever made. Just get it dealt with. Let's get on with the recap of the film.
Please.
Here we have a quiet little motel, when in fact it has now become known as the scene of the crime.
You have a vacancy?
Oh, we have 12 vacancies. We're all in our private traps, clamped in them.
Why, she wouldn't even harm a fly.
So Psycho, Chris, tells the story of Marion Crane, who is enjoying some secret sexy time with her lover, Sam Loomis.
Yeah.
She tells him they can't go on living a lie and they must make it official. But he says that he can't, since he has steep alimony bills and doesn't want to burden her with sharing his life as a debtor to his ex-wife.
Yeah.
That very afternoon, Marion returns to her job in a real estate office, where her boss asks her to take $40,000 to the bank on her way home.
It's a lot of money in those days, Joe.
Yeah, adjusting for inflation, Chris, it's about $350,000, I think.
There you go.
Marion decides to steal the money and takes off across the country, heading to meet Sam in California, where he lives. Now, it's not mentioned in the film, but they met on a cruise in the novel, which explains why they live so far apart.
Right. Could have been online dating.
Yeah, 1960.
Yeah. I didn't say on what line, Joe.
Yeah.
It could have been a cruise line.
Yeah, that's true. Marion has a run-in with a police officer, but after some light questioning, she gives him the old switcheroo by selling her car and buying a replacement. She continues to drive to California, but due to oppressive weather, she's forced to take shelter at the Bates Motel, a small refuge a long way from any of the main highways in the area. I'm sure this will end well.
Yeah.
The proprietor of the motel is Norman Bates, and he's a very pleasant and welcoming young man. He helps her to her room and asks her to join him for dinner. As the only guest at the motel, Marion is offered the all-star treatment, sandwiches and milk, which she willingly accepts.
I find the concept of drinking milk with any savoury dish weird.
Yeah?
I don't know why.
It's like a Saturday afternoon, like a cheese roll with a glass of milk. I can enjoy that. Yeah.
I just think it's so clammy, like just that combination of like pappy bread with
If you're going for dairy, you may as well go all in, I think. If you're having cheese.
Well, that's the Joe Sherville policy, is it?
Yeah.
If you're going to have cheese, you may as well have dairy in all of its forms all at once.
Buttered bread, you want cheese.
Chocolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cream. Spread on thick. As Marion changes in her room, she hears Norman arguing with an elderly-sounding woman up at the adjoining farmhouse. The woman scolds Norman for attempting to bring another woman into the house, so Norman and Marion eat in the motel office instead. Norman explains his great love of taxidermy and how his mother's health has been degrading for many years, since the death of her second husband, Norman's stepfather. Norman says he can never leave his mother because he's all she has. So he dutifully tends to the motel and sees to her every need. While they're chatting, Marion decides she will return home with the stolen money and face the consequences of her actions. She heads to her room to take a shower. I'm sure this will end fine.
That's the end of the film, isn't it? I think just she's decided to return the money.
Yeah.
The moral quandary that was set out at the start of the film has been resolved.
Yeah. The character arc is complete.
Yeah.
As she showers, she's startled by an unplanned visitor who stabs her to death in the shower. It was Mrs. Bates, Norman's mother.
Yeah.
Norman is heard admonishing his mother from the farmhouse, saying, "Mother, blood! Blood!"
Mother, oh God, Mother, blood, blood.
And swiftly begins clearing up the crime scene, eventually dumping Marion and her car and the stolen money in a nearby lake. Marion's disappearance from town raised a number of alarms, including her sister Lila, who heads to California to confront Sam about Marion's whereabouts. Sam is, to remind you, her boyfriend. Sam swears he hasn't heard from her, but a private investigator named Arbogast, hired by the real estate agency, lurks into the scene and tells Sam that he doesn't believe him. Arbogast heads to the Bates Motel and begins making inquiries. Norman cracks under exceptionally light questioning, and Arbogast calls Lila to tell her that he's going to speak to Mrs. Bates, who is Norman's mother. When he arrives back at the motel, he enters the farmhouse and is immediately murdered by Mrs. Bates. Lila and Sam grow increasingly worried from the missing Arbogast. They head to the Bates Motel to look for him, and they check in under false names. Sam keeps Norman busy in the office with some light questioning, where Lila explores the house. Lila finds Mrs. Bates in the fruit cellar, but is astonished to learn that Mrs. Bates is dead and has been for some time, and that the woman in front of her is actually a mummified corpse.
Yeah. Not even mummified.
No, just rotting.
Yeah. A skeleton.
Yeah. At that moment, Norman bursts from the shadows and begins attacking her, dressed in his mother's clothing and a wig. Sam subdues Norman under light attack.
Yeah.
Light hitting.
Subduing.
Yeah. Later at the police station, a psychiatrist gives a lengthy explanation of how and why Norman pretended to be his mother.
Yeah.
Luckily, thanks to 57 years of derivative media, I don't need to repeat it all here because we know the trope.
Yeah.
The psychiatrist explains that Norman is no more, and he has been fully replaced by Mother. Through Mother's internal monologue, we learn that she blames Norman for the murders and that she wouldn't harm a fly. And that's how Psycho ends.
Yeah. With a chilling smile to camera from Norman Bates.
Yeah. Or from Mother.
Or from Mother, yeah.
So that's Psycho. I'd never seen it, and I'm glad I have because now I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's one ticked off.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that was How to Survive, episode 99.
See you next week.
Yeah. What did you make of it as a first-time viewer?
Well, I knew.
What about that twist, Joe? I bet you didn't see that coming.
No. Well, the problem is, it's the most famous scene in any movie ever.
Yeah.
And therefore, I've seen it before. But I didn't know it was like everything in between. So I knew that she was murdered in the shower, and I knew that Mrs. Bates was a dead body.
Yeah.
That's all I knew. And the rest was kind of interesting to see how it got filled in.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, I mean, it's the oldest movie I think you can cover that isn't dated.
Yeah.
Although in some ways it is. The shower scene in particular. Now, obviously, everyone wanks themselves silly over this scene, right?
Careful.
What?
It's like a woman in the shower.
Being murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what people do in the privacy of their own home.
Yeah.
No, I mean, from
They love it, yeah.
from a filmmaking perspective, it's like everyone's like, oh, I fucking love this scene. Right?
Yeah.
It's like every list of best scenes ever. The best horror moments, the best horror characters, the most unexpected things in movies, right? And that just, it's not that good, is it? It's good.
Really?
It's good.
I think it's great. I think
Yeah, good, because I was just testing you.
I think that you have to, when you watch old films, really, you can enjoy them on just the passive level, and also you can enjoy them on a sort of contextual level as, viewing it as a film in the 1960s.
Yeah. What I always say is, what I like in a film is when it contributes something to the metaphorical museum of film. And
This does.
this absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. I think that, like famously, there's no shot of the knife actually
Going in, yeah.
or any wounds.
Yeah.
And it's all very like sleight of hand, basically, the
Yeah.
way in which it's shot and edited, which it's incredibly well done.
Yeah. Although it's possible to go away. If you paused halfway through it, you'd be like, well, has she been stabbed?
Yeah, but
I'm being facetious.
Yeah,
obviously, I know that it is demonstrably an amazing scene.
Yeah.
And obviously...
Yeah, you're being contrary, basically.
Yeah, but I'm trying to drive some conversation about the scene.
Well,
if we both sit here going, it's a fucking good scene.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason it works so well is because it's the scene in isolation is, while it's impressive and like for the 1960s, it's brutal and frightening, and the score, obviously.
And that the original plan from Hitchcock was to have it in silence. But when he heard the score, he said, "This is a good score that I want to use."
Yeah. If I gave it a score, it'd be 10 out of 10. So it's a better scene, though, within the context of the narrative.
Yeah.
And especially if you look at it in 1960, because Janet Leigh was like the equivalent of Jennifer Lawrence or whatever. Like she was a global star.
Right.
Hollywood
A name.
babe, and Alfred Hitchcock puts her in a film and kills her in like 45 minutes into it.
Less than halfway through.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like that is genuinely mad. Like you don't get that sort of thing even now in Hollywood, and it is a subversive and dramatic thing to do.
Yeah. But you do get it in some movies. I'm going to spoil some movies now, which we've covered in the podcast in the past.
Right.
So if you don't want to hear about it, skip forward 30 seconds from now. Now, Scream. Obviously, there's a big name in that dies early on.
Mm-hmm.
Drew Barrymore in the opening scene. Samuel L. Jackson in Deep Blue Sea, of course, in a favourite of ours. And two we haven't covered. I'm being sneaky here. Pulp Fiction obviously has that iconic Hollywood A-lister killed off, and No Country for Old Men as well.
Yeah.
Has it?
I would say none of them are on the same scale, because the thing that I'd noticed about all of those examples is that they're all ensemble casts. So in all of those cases, you've got a group of protagonists.
Yeah.
Whereas in this film, you literally spend the first 40 minutes with Janet Leigh.
Yeah.
And there's like, you basically both through the fact that she's a star and the fact that you've spent so much time with her, and like you even hear her inner thoughts, basically, or like what she assumes other people are saying and all that sort of thing.
Which is interesting, like anxiety thing.
Yeah, which is well done, I think. Off the back of all that, to then kill her off and leave you with no protagonist.
Yeah,
like the second. The person who's had the second most screen time is Norman Bates at that point. Like it's an incredibly subversive thing. And I still think, despite those examples, like there's very few films who have pulled that off in quite the same way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I was just something to talk about, mate.
I don't
talk for an hour.
I don't think it's the best scene in the film, though.
Say that again.
I don't think it's the best scene in the film, though.
No?
The two scenes that when I was watching it this time, I thought were like amazing. The first one is when she's stopped at traffic lights and her boss walks across the road.
Yeah.
That is like scarier than 90% of the films that we've watched doing this podcast.
It's our old favourite of like the social tension. That's not the horror in the movie, but it puts you on edge because like it puts her on edge.
Yeah.
Like, that increases her worry beyond like...
It's just perfect because there's no... Like, she doesn't see him beforehand. Like, you could imagine, like, her, and she sees him crossing the road and she ducks down or anything. But it's like, even as the audience, both the audience and Marion see her boss, like, the second he starts, like, oh, hi, waves at her. And you're like, oh, fuck. Like, that's really bad because she's in the middle of, like, heisting 40 grand
from him,
and like he even does like a like over the top like sort of face at the other side of the road, but it's like that sets in motion all of the like inner thoughts of like and you hear her imagining her boss going, no, I saw her Friday. No.
Wait a minute. I saw her driving out of town with all my money.
Yeah, like a detective, whoever on the phone.
Arbogast.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's great. The other scene, which is just a masterpiece, is the sandwich scene.
Yeah.
Right, that whole conversation from like when they first go into his office and just sit there for sort of 10 minutes. Like, imagine a horror film nowadays not having any scares whatsoever for the first like 45 minutes, killing off its main star, right? And basically hiding the fact that it's a horror movie for the first half, and having like a 10 to 15 minute dialogue led scene where you're basically just getting to know the killer.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's an amazing
like,
thing.
And like the performances and everything, like the way in which it really slowly unveils Norman Bates's like
madness.
Yeah. Like really delicately does it. It's perfectly done, I think.
The way he's just so like sincere and like nice guy.
Yeah.
It reminded me of, I don't know, this is a weird thing to compare it to maybe, but Nightcrawler.
Right. Yeah.
Jake Gyllenhaal's character in that is similar. He carries himself in a similar way of being like just really earnest and really nice.
Yeah.
But then he'll occasionally say something and you're just like,
That's a really disturbing thing to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I think those two scenes are masterpieces, basically. And I think, you know, the shower scene is incredible, but like it obviously operates on a sort of shock value basis.
Yeah.
Whereas those scenes, you could watch them 100 times and they're still just as good.
Yeah. How do you feel about, as ever, I agree with you on these parts. Playing devil's advocate, the ending's a bit hammy.
Which part of it?
The psychiatrist just explaining everything and taking out any like need for the audience to do any interpretation.
Yeah, it reminded me of like it's a bit theatrical, isn't it? It's a bit like Shakespearean. Like someone comes down and just explains what happened
in a spotlight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it was Beauty who killed the beast.
Yeah, and they're all just sat in a circle around him, basically just going like. So he like dressing in women's clothes?
No, not quite. He wasn't himself. He was literally his mother.
Yeah. So I think it is deservedly considered a masterpiece of cinema.
Yeah.
One thing that I noticed watching the film this time around is that almost all of the cast are really bad at whatever it is they're doing.
Right.
So Marion is terrible at
heisting,
going on the lam.
Yeah.
And like keeping her cool under questioning. Like she basically does all she can to make everyone suspicious of her.
Yeah.
Sam Loomis gets knocked out with a single blow. So as the muscle, he's fairly rubbish.
The tough guy.
Detective Arbogast is, I would say, arrogant and ill-prepared.
Yeah.
Because he basically saunters up the stairs and gets stabbed. And
no gun drawn.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Norman, of course, is a messy and incompetent killer.
Yeah.
And incompetent at cleaning it up as well, because despite the fact that he like manages to, leave no blood trace anywhere, like it's just the bit of paper that's left, and put them in the lake and everything. He's, as you say, he folds like a house of cards at the slightest questioning. And he's also not very good at cross-dressing, I would say.
You don't think?
Well, no, I think it's what I always find funny is that like when you see him in the light and he's like in a dress and like got that manic grin on his face, it's almost like it's hard to believe that he was the silhouette in the bathroom.
Yeah, well,
it's like
they did use a different person.
I know, but it's like it's so far from the silhouette in the bathroom that it's like he just looks like a child playing dress up, which I suppose in a sense,
he's meant to look mad. But you're right that, I mean, the believability goes out the window when you see the person who darts out the room is clearly a woman.
Yeah.
Or like a small man.
Yeah.
And he's about 6'5". It looks like a linebacker.
Yeah. Have you read the theory about Sam Loomis?
No.
So where have we heard of Sam Loomis before?
Oh, fuck. No, it just dawned on me because I remember recognizing the name. Yeah. And now you've probed me. He's the doctor in Halloween.
Right. Yeah. So there is a theory that following the events of Psycho, because presumably Sam Loomis in Halloween, is that character's named as a reference,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But the theory goes that the Sam Loomis in Halloween, who's now a psychiatrist who works with like dangerous criminals, he was inspired to take up that career as a result of his experiences with Norman Bates, because he became a sort of, proto expert in it, and then spent his career trying to rehabilitate murderers.
Michael Myers.
Yeah,
It doesn't add up though, because
it doesn't. Of course,
the Sam Loomis we see in Halloween is maybe late 50s, early 60s.
Possibly, yeah. How old would you say Sam Loomis is in this? He could be in his 30s.
Yeah.
Well, then it's what was Halloween? 1974 or something?
Yeah, but it's 20 years. I mean, Michael Myers is 20 years old or 25 years old. 21?
Right. Yeah.
Well, however old he is, there's been at least like 20-year gap where he's been treated by Sam Loomis from the start. So that gives you a maximum of 10 years for Sam Loomis to gather himself up after his girlfriend's been murdered by
the background checks on psychiatrists back in the day were much less stringent.
Yeah.
It's just a nice. It's just a nice little.
Yeah. I mean, what it is a reference.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that you mentioned what happens after Psycho.
Yeah.
Because, as you know, when there's a film that has a number of ridiculous and tedious sequels, I like to run one of my famous franchise quizzes.
Right.
Have you seen any of the Psycho sequels?
No.
Well, then you'll enjoy my Psycho franchise quiz.
So is this a quiz, questions and multiple choice?
Multiple choice quiz. It's the favourite format of the How to Survive podcast.
Yeah, probably not of any of our listeners though.
No. I think they like it.
Yeah, let's hope
I haven't quizzed them on that. That's arrogance for you.
Yeah.
Psycho 2, Chris, is the first question. Psycho 2, made in 1983, is set 20 years after Psycho and sees Anthony Perkins revive his role as Norman Bates. Returning to the Bates Motel after a 20-year stretch in an asylum, he begins to take things over again, Now, Norman is not alone in his murderous ways in Psycho 2 and is accompanied by a kindly old lady named Emma Spool, who is revealed to be what? A, the mother of Marion and Lila from the first movie. B, the ghost of an old pilgrim who haunts the area around the house. Or C, do you want to take a guess at what this is?
Is it Mrs. Bates reincarnated?
Norman's real mother, who was institutionalized when Norman was a baby.
Right. Is it C?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Good guess.
Yeah.
Now, Psycho 3, Chris, came out a little bit after, 3 years later, in 1986.
So is Psycho 2 enough of a success for them to go, this is it.
They were like, this is a cash cow now.
Yeah. Hitchcock involved, is he? Or?
Spinning in his grave for this one. This is credited. Norman Bates is at it again, mate.
Yeah.
Can you believe it? Anthony Perkins back in the role.
Not got anything else on.
No. This time, a suicidal nun takes refuge at the Bates Motel. After attempting to cut her wrists, she begins to hallucinate. What does she hallucinate, Chris? Is it A, the Virgin Mary standing before her? B, Marion from the first movie warning her about Norman when she's in the shower? Or C, that Norman is her true love?
I have a feeling that it's B, Marion from the first film.
It's actually not B, it's A
not?
and C.
Oh, for goodness sake.
So the Virgin Mary standing before her was actually Norman in his mother's clothing.
Right.
And in the end, she convinces herself that Norman is her true love. And as she goes to tell him as much, Norman basically embraces her. And then from the other room, you hear Mrs. Bates shouting, and he pushes her down the stairs and kills her.
Lovely.
In Psycho 4, the beginning, it seems like they've got the same naming conventions as Friday the 13th. Yeah.
And probably the same deterioration in quality.
Yes. Anthony Perkins not available for this one. Norman Bates calls into a talk radio station to discuss himself under an assumed name. He explains his entire life story to the host, which is told to us through flashback. At the end, it is revealed that he plans to kill his new wife, Connie, who is his former psychiatrist. What happens next? Is it A, he kills Connie and starts dressing up as her to check people into the motel? Is it B, Connie tells Norman she is pregnant and they burn down the Bates Motel together and Norman states, "I'm free"? Or is it C? Connie tells Norman that she is pregnant, Norman is killed by police, and Connie tells the unborn child, "Don't worry, I'll make sure we stay together forever."
I'm going to go with B.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's finally free.
Finally free.
Until, of course...
Psycho Part 5.
No, that never happened.
Oh, damn.
What came out next was a TV movie called Bates Motel.
Right.
Now, this isn't the TV series which is currently running. We're not going to be touching on that because we don't cover TV series.
Okay.
This is a TV movie. So what I'm going to do is clip out a clip of the synopsis and then ask you a question at the end, right?
Okay.
So the story of Bates Motel, the TV movie from the 80s, is that Alex is a man who shared a cell in a mental asylum with Norman Bates. And when Norman Bates dies, he bequeaths the motel to Alex, right? And our story is of Barbara Peters, who runs away from home and ends up staying in Alex's motel for the night, contemplating suicide because she's now getting older, has gone through 3 divorces and hasn't got any children. Barbara meets a teenage girl who invites Barbara to dance at an after-prom party in the motel with her and her teenage friends, including Tony Scotti, who's played by Jason Bateman. Though Barbara felt uncomfortable hanging out with young kids. This is how it's written, by the way, so if it sounds grammatically difficult, I'm just doing what I can. It's then revealed that Barbara's real name is Sally, and that the teenage girl is her younger self from an alternative dimension, and took her own life and is now trapped in the other side, along with Tony and other teens who also committed suicide. Sally tells Barbara that she has a life worth living for. Then Sally leaves with the rest of the group. Barbara leaves the motel the next day, planning to live life to the fullest. Alex looks at the screen. That's Alex, the owner of the hotel. And he tells viewers, A, if you ever need a room, come by. I can't say for sure what you'll find, but it is what makes the world go round. Is it B? So the next time you're driving down a long and dusty road, maybe stop for a while and relax with us. Or is it C? They say the best things in life are free. Well, I don't know about that, but I can tell you that all that glitters ain't gold.
Is it C?
No, it was A. Now, what I question, right?
Right.
Quiz is over now.
Right.
You got 1 or 2, maybe.
3.
3, yeah.
Well, 2 or 3, I don't know. Who cares?
Doesn't matter. Let's move on. What I question is, who was watching Psycho, Alfred Hitchcock classic, as we said, one of the best movies ever made, and they've gone, you know what would make this better? Transdimensional suicidal teens.
Yeah, that is bizarre. There's like such a flimsy link to the original.
Yeah.
As well.
None of the original characters.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Like is in obviously there's a flimsy no link to the original, but like you'd imagine that they'd at least use the property if you're going to slap the Bates Motel tag on it.
Yeah.
Bizarre. The Bates Motel TV series, as I mentioned, recently came to an end.
Yeah.
Do you know who? Little quiz question for you. Do you know who played Marion Crane in the final series?
I do know. What you're grinning at me like it's like
I'm grinning because it's so preposterous.
Really?
Like,
so Marion Crane presumably would be
this person is not an actress.
Really?
Yeah. But she is incredibly famous.
But not an actress.
Yeah.
Hillary Clinton.
No.
No. Am I close?
Rihanna.
Rihanna.
Yeah.
I was thinking that. I didn't want to say it because it was so ridiculous.
It's more. Yeah. You were like.
I didn't want to embarrass myself.
You were like, oh, I don't want to say something ridiculous. Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, but that was a spoiled guess.
Yeah. So Rihanna as Marion Crane. There you go.
I mean, there's a number of issues. And she's an actress anyway. She's in Battleship.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah. Apologies to Rihanna. So with all that said, do you feel equipped to survive in Psycho?
Absolutely. Easy first tip.
Yeah.
Now, when you're at home alone,
yeah,
do you typically, let's say if you're taking a shower or using your facilities, do you lock the door?
If I'm alone? Probably not.
If Marion had locked the door, Joe, she'd have been fine, wouldn't she?
Which, I mean, he owns the building. He has a key to the door.
Well, we don't know. Not if it's like a bolt lock, like a.
Right.
You're assuming that it's a key lock for the door.
Yeah.
Whereas most bathrooms, I think you'd agree, will just have a sort of simple bolt or latch. And he'd have got down there. Norman would have got down there and tried to sneak in, rattled the door handle. She'd have been wise. She'd have prepared herself and then maybe made an escape.
Just suggesting something here.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose he knocked the door, right?
Yeah.
And she opened it.
Well, no, because she's naked. So she'd have gone, who's there? And he would have either gone, oh, it's me, it's Norman. Oh, sorry, I forgot which room you're in.
Yeah.
Or he would have gone, hello, it's Mrs. Bates. Just checking up on you.
Yeah.
And she would have gone, well, Norman said that she's infirm and shouldn't be allowed out of the house because she's ill.
So I'll keep this door locked between us.
Yeah, so something about this doesn't add up. Also, that is definitely a man putting a woman's voice on.
Yeah. I'd take your point. Two things that could have happened. Bearing in mind, it's not an old lady. It's a 20-year-old man.
Yeah.
And he's open to killing people.
Yeah.
He could have just kicked the door down and killed her.
But he's in character though, isn't he? So would Mrs. Bates would she be, when she's like using Norman, would she be using like his strength, or would she be like, well, I'm a 7-year-old woman, how could I kick down the door?
When she takes over, he develops osteoporosis.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Split, where
we don't know the limitations of the ability. I take your point that it wouldn't have hurt. It wouldn't have hurt.
No.
To lock the door. But I don't believe that I would lock the door in a hotel.
Do you know Janet Leigh, having seen the film, would only take a shower with all the doors and windows locked?
Because
in her house.
Yeah, because she'd been
because she was
confronted
traumatized by the film.
The image of her own death in a shower.
It must be quite a disturbing thing if you're an actor and you
to die on screen.
Yeah.
Well, there was another Hitchcock movie called Diabolik. Image, I haven't seen it. One where a character dies in the bath, and a distraught father, wrote to Hitchcock and said, "First, my daughter saw Diabolik, and now she's scared to take a bath. Now she's seen Psycho, and she's scared to take a shower." And he wrote back and said, "Send her to the dry cleaner."
Good. Yep. A characteristically caring response by Hitchcock. So basically, it would have caused issues, I think, for the Bates plan. It could, it could be, you're right in that they're false locking doors, or he has a key, but we see no evidence of that. It seems pretty smooth.
I suppose one further option, he tries the lock, doesn't work. Just wait till they come out and kill him there.
Well, yeah, I suppose if he...
Because he's sneaking, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you just wait on the bed, and when the door opens, you just go, oh, there we are.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Norman Bates dressed as a woman.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter because the only witness will be dead in like seconds.
Well, yeah, possibly. She'd have been better prepared, like standing 10 feet away from him.
Yeah.
Than she would have been a foot away from him.
Yeah.
Naked.
And pinned in. All right.
Yeah.
I'd take your point. Lock the door. All right.
Wouldn't have hurt.
No, absolutely. I've got two ideas on how to survive.
Okay.
And they require each of us to take on the role of Norman Bates.
Right.
Right. So for one of them, you will be playing Norman Bates.
Okay.
And for one of them, I'll be playing Norman Bates.
Right.
Right.
So 99 episodes in, you're finally getting your thespian dreams.
Absolutely.
This is for Psycho 6, the re-beginning.
The podcasting. Okay, so why is it called Psycho, do you think? Because I always interpret that to mean psychopath.
Yeah, I think it's probably not the most PC term, but it's essentially a pejorative word for someone who's mentally ill, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. But would it have behooved the other people in the film to have carried with them perhaps some diagnostic criteria?
Right, okay. Is this the DM, whatever it's called?
The DSM. This isn't the DSM, this is the psychopath test.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which isn't in the DSM, but closely related. So what I propose is I will take on the role of a psychiatrist and you'll be Norman Bates, and I'll just ask you a series of questions
Well, and I've got to pretend to be Norman Bates.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so to what extent do you agree with the following? And this is a scale of 1 to 4, 1 being disagree and 4 being agree. So, question 1. To what extent out of 4 do you agree with this? You rarely catch me making any plans. I'm far too spontaneous.
Well, as Norman Bates, I have to look after my mother, so making plans does not really factor into it too much. And unless, of course, my plan is to look after mother.
Right.
I agree, but disagree. I rarely make plans, but it's not due to my spontaneity.
Just give me the number.
3 then.
3. Okay, so you agree to an extent.
Partially agree,
Right.
yeah.
Question 2. I'd have no problem cheating on my partner if I knew I could get away with it.
Well, of course, my partner is mother, as every boy's partner in life is. I clearly have designs on Marion when I'm inviting her up to my house for sandwiches and milk.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that were I not encumbered by mother, I would. So 4.
4, okay. Question 3. If I got a better offer, I wouldn't mind cancelling long-standing plans.
Well, my only long-standing plan is taking care of mother, and Marion suggests that I just leave it all behind.
Yeah.
And I say no, so I'd have to say I disagree with that.
Right, 1.
Yeah.
Number 4, I don't get bothered by seeing animals injured or in pain.
Well, there's no evidence to suggest that my taxidermy was practiced on living creatures, but you would imagine that as that is my hobby, I'm not particularly squeamish.
Yeah.
So 3.
3, okay. Question 5, it would be fun to drive fast cars, ride roller coasters, or go skydiving.
Mother would not let me do any of those things. 1.
Question 6, I think it's okay to step over other people to achieve my own ambitions.
My ambition is looking after mother in peace. Marion tried in her own way to stop me doing that. 4.
Question 7, I'm very persuasive, and getting people to do what I want is a real talent of mine.
I was desperate for Marion to die in the shower. 4.
If you persuaded her to do that. Question 8, my ability to make quick decisions means I would suit a dangerous job.
I quickly decided that I wanted to murder Marion. Although he's not the most decisive. He doesn't come across as particularly decisive.
No, he's
so
racked with guilt.
Yeah.
1. Question 9, when the people around me are crumbling under pressure, I'm usually the one with a cool head.
1.
Question 10, if someone gets conned, who cares? They're asking for it.
Well, he does try and trick everyone who comes into the motel.
Yeah.
So 4.
And finally, I'm rarely to blame for things going wrong. It's usually the fault of people around me.
Yes, I strongly agree with that because mother makes me do things. 4.
Okay. Thank you very much. You are 58% a psychopath.
Well, that's
a high risk, I'd say.
Yeah.
You're more likely to be a psychopath than you aren't.
Yeah, that is true.
So if
I think the thing holding him back from being a full-on psychopath is like him being constantly racked with anxiety about everything that he does.
Yeah. Yes. So he's not dissociated from his emotions.
Yeah. So in what way is this a survival method?
Well, if any of the characters had walked into the Bates Motel and asked those 11 questions, on a scale of 1 to 4, do you agree with the following question? As an icebreaker, they could have made a quick calculation and thought, there's a high risk that I'll be murdered by this man, and then left abruptly. Do you think?
Well, it's a 56% chance. It's high, but not like,
It's not a guarantee for sure.
Exactly.
But you would,
because if you were looking, because also it would be a sort of inverse confirmation bias because you'd be looking for psychopaths if you were going around with that test and asking everyone that you met to fill it out. So if someone hit 56%, that would probably fall within a range of data.
Yeah. Well, yeah, certainly it could be a false positive, but that's surely a risk worth taking given that this man is in fact a psychopath and he does kill people.
Yeah, but the person administering this test is not to know that. Are they?
Because they haven't taken the test.
No, but presumably they test everyone.
Yeah.
So like whoever they test, like are they just going to avoid anyone who scores above like 25% of the psychopath test?
Would that that would keep them safe. Yeah.
But a psychopath you couldn't trust them to answer honestly.
But the psychopath test is there for a reason, right? It is established as a way of testing whether people are psychopaths.
Yeah, but if I, as Norman Bates, was like,
I've heard of that test.
yeah, or like if I was saying, oh, I really want to murder Marion, I better like cozy up to her. I'm not going to be going like, I'm going to be putting on a facade that I'm a really nice person, aren't I?
Yeah, but like you'd be like, yeah, I love being spontaneous. Or like, oh yeah,
I love cancelling plans with people.
yeah.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. But how does this flow into a survival method?
But if every hotel I walk into, if I go up to the reception desk and say, there's a few questions for you just before I check in, and I come out with that saying, this is a 56% chance this person's a psychopath.
Yeah.
I'll go, right, try the next hotel over.
Yeah, so like where's your limit?
50%, I'd say.
Right.
Because that means if it tips over 50%, that means they are more likely than not. If in 100 people, 56 of them will be murderers.
No, psychopaths.
Yeah, who are shown 100% of the psychopaths in the movie are murderers.
Fine, yeah, within this world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Happy with that?
Yeah, I think, we solved Norman Bates's issues.
Any more thoughts from you?
Yeah, keeping your mother's dead body around, not particularly hygienic, is it?
No.
Better
in
off,
the fruit cellar as well.
Yeah, better off burying it, as is tradition, or burning it, because that will get rid of any adverse bacteria or germs that will be lingering on a rotting corpse.
Question though, one of our rules in the podcast is to always obey the motivations of the character.
Yeah, and he wants to keep his mother around.
He is motivated to, keep her around for.
Yeah. Maybe get a freezer.
Yeah.
Pop her in there. Better preservation.
Yeah.
And then also last longer. Be in a better state of repair and less likely to transmit infection.
He is mad, and he has conversations in which she says stuff like, "Don't put me in freezers." I imagine.
Probably, yeah. Well, she does. Yeah, but she
doesn't want to go in the fruit cellar.
Yeah, and he puts it there. So if he had his head screwed on a bit more.
But that's to stop people finding the fact that she's dead.
Yeah, well, they're not going to find her in a chest freezer either, are they?
No, that's true.
Yeah. Like if she was like, oh, strap me to the outside of the house, he'd probably go like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Leave me in room 1, please, in the shower.
Introduce me to everyone who comes in.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't keep a dead body lying around because that's going to be minging.
Yeah, I think that's a fair, unhygienic.
Unhygienic, yeah.
Yeah, unpleasant.
That's the word.
It's not going to do much for you. I mean, if my bedroom gets a bit messy, it plays with your mental health a bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Not in any major way.
It makes you feel
claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Bit
untidy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tidy room, tidy mind.
Exactly, yeah. Having their body lying around isn't going to do much for you, is it?
No, it's not going to help.
I like to think if someone close to me was dead in my house, it would be inappropriate.
You'd do the right thing.
Yeah, I'd probably want them to get them out of there just so I have a bit of a space to think, really.
Yeah. The only question on that psychopath test should be when a loved one has died, has the desire that they were still alive outweighed the social norms of burying their body for you?
The basic necessity of getting the corpse underground.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah. It's a bit of advice for Norman there.
Yeah, fair point. Yeah. So my final one, Chris, as I mentioned, I will be taking on the role of Norman on this occasion.
Okay.
And you will be Detective Arbogast.
Okay.
Now, you mentioned earlier that Norman cracks under quite light questioning.
Yeah, like no pressure whatsoever.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you what he should have done.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking back.
So Arbogast might say something. Have you seen this woman holding up a photo of
No.
You sure?
Yeah, haven't seen her.
We've got it. Can I see the ledger for the hotel?
No.
Why not?
Don't know where it is.
That's a bit suspicious.
I don't know where it is.
Why?
I was tidying up on it. I don't know where it is.
Well, isn't it this on the desk in front of you?
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, I thought you meant the other one.
Can I have a look at it?
Yep.
Thanks. That name there, actually, that's one of the missing girl's aliases.
Okay.
So you're sure you haven't seen this woman?
Yeah, it might be.
Does anyone else work at the hotel?
No. This
So
is me.
would you have been here? I mean, looking at the other pages in this ledger, there's been no other customer
Yeah.
for the last 6 weeks. You would think that the one customer that you've had in a
Yeah.
month and a half would stick out in your memory.
Do you know what it is, right?
Yeah.
It was dark that night.
Right. In here, I mean, it's dark outside now,
Yeah.
and you've got a light on.
Yeah. So what's your question, please?
I mean, well, have you seen this woman?
no.
Well, I don't believe you.
Okay, well, I genuinely, she may have come here.
Right.
I drink quite
It
heavily.
says here she stayed in. It says here that she stayed in room 1.
Yeah.
Can I have a look at room 1?
No.
Why?
Because someone's in there.
Who's in there?
I don't know. It's a guest, isn't it? Mother, isn't it? My mother isn't there.
Your mother is in there.
Yeah.
Well, I'd love to meet her because she might have. Maybe she saw Marion.
No, she wasn't here then.
She wasn't here then.
She was out of town with her sister.
Right. Okay. Where
was-
does your mother live normally?
Normally
Yeah.
lives here.
What, in room 1?
No, in the house.
Because there's a house. She lives in the house normally.
Yeah.
Why is she staying in room 1 now?
She's in there cleaning.
She's cleaning.
Yeah.
So she's quite sprightly. Is she like she's pretty with it?
No, she's obsessive. What
Well,
it is?
I presume. How old is your mother?
80s, I guess.
80s, you guess.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's still cleaning. That's remarkable. She must have her wits about her. That is quite impressive for an 80-year-old woman to be an active part of your workforce.
No,
I'm sure.
you cut me off.
I'm sure she would.
She's cleaning brass ornaments with potent acids, so you can't go in there because it will harmful to your lungs.
I'm actually naturally a producer of alkaline, so if anything, that would probably do me some good.
Well, I think you're being a bit silly now. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
Well, did you murder Marion Crane?
Absolutely not.
Did your mother murder Marion Crane?
Not to my knowledge.
Not to your knowledge. That's a suspicious answer.
But I assume not. She's never killed anyone else. That's for sure.
Right.
And
Well,
she's dead. My mother's dead.
She's never killed any other of your guests.
My mother's dead.
She's never killed any other guests.
No.
So Marion was a guest.
How do you mean?
I said, has she ever killed any other guests?
Well, you can't really. I mean, what you've done there is you've deliberately tried to trick me, haven't you?
Yes.
Yeah. No. I don't. As you can see in this ledger, no one called Marion Crane.
Right.
As
Yeah, but
ledger.
as I explained to you, the Marion Crane's alias is.
Well, so you say,
name.
but that's hearsay. What's the name of that? It's John Smith. How do I know that's not her name as well?
Because this is a very similar name to her first name, and the last name is the name of her boyfriend.
Coincidence.
Is it?
A lot of people called Loomis. A lot of people called Mary.
But both of them together, heading this direction on this night. Are you sure you haven't seen it though? Because it feels.
Listen. All I'm saying is, what proof do you have that was her? Because I'm not disputing it. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know where she is now. If it was her, someone stayed here. I agree, but I don't know who it was.
I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, but the way in which you've reacted to these questions is it has, if anything, cast more suspicion onto you than I had originally.
Yeah.
So,
so
I tell you what, I'm going to leave now.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to room 1.
Yeah.
And speak to your mother.
No, she's dead.
She's
dead.
very quietly cleaning in there.
Cleaning with acids, as I said.
Very, very quietly. Can I just look through that peephole actually that you've got in your office that I can see?
No, acids hurt your eye.
Okay, all right.
Oh, look. There's acids. More acids are coming. You better leave.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Oh no, it's flawless. Yeah. No, I'm sure Norman Bates. Yeah. If you were Norman Bates, that would be fine.
Lie and deny, or have a story straight.
Well, like you did.
Well, no, I didn't. That's the problem. Try again with the straight story. From the start. Okay.
No.
If he'd just been like, oh yeah, she was here all right, but she left.
Yeah.
That would have been like a more sensible answer.
Yeah. But he didn't do that in the film, and neither did you when you tried to repeat that scene under pressure.
Forgot.
Yeah, well, maybe Norman Bates would forget. It happens to the best of us, clearly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Norman Bates would have survived. Although he does survive the end of the film.
He doesn't. In many ways, he gets overcome by Mother.
Yeah, maybe.
Mother.
Mother, oh God, mother!
So with that said, Chris, we've got a mixture of getting your story straight,
Yeah.
establishing mental health issues, not keeping dead bodies in your home, and that seems to be a pretty solid way to survive Psycho.
Yeah.
Now, I believe we've had some correspondence.
Yeah, and I want to take you to task about something. And this isn't related to Psycho. This is related to episode 96 of the How to Survive podcast.
Okay.
Which you will remember.
It's a favourite.
Yeah, you'll remember we covered Twister, the 1996 terrible rubbish disaster movie.
Yeah, that was just part
disaster
of our
movie
weather season.
Yeah, disaster movie in more ways than one.
Yeah.
Now, we've had a lot of correspondence about what has become known on Twitter as hashtag Twistergate, which is to do with, in the final scene, a exchange of dialogue between Bill Paxton and Holly Hunter. Holly Hunter, definitely the lead actress in that film.
Yeah.
Where she exclaims, "Who are these people?"
Yeah.
While in a barn filled with sort of sharpened farming implements.
Yep.
And he replies, "I don't think so."
Oh my God, who are these people? I don't think so.
You say replies. I would say she says, "Who are these people?"
Rhetorically.
And then in a separate exchange, he says, "I don't think so."
Yeah. Okay. Well, you remember last week you read out an email from Roger.
Yeah. Thanks, Roger. Thanks again, Roger, for siding with me.
We also had an email from Kevin. Who was basically broadly making the same point.
Okay.
And you neglected to read out his email or mention at all that he'd gotten in touch. So he emails, says, "Guys, this is outrageous. I don't know who this Roger fellow is," starting a bit of beef with another one of our listeners.
Yeah.
But I posited the same theory a week earlier, yet he gets the credit and I'm made to look a confused schmuck. I'm not sure what Joe was talking about, but having listened to the Twister episode over 80 times now, I'm confident in saying that at no point does he suggest that Paxton's now iconic "I don't think so" constitutes his thinking out loud about the unsuitability of the shed as a place of cover. He does talk about him shouting at a rake, but I don't think this is the same thing. Frankly, I'm scandalised. Normally I wouldn't write an email like this, but we're talking about Twister here. Twister deserves better. Now, if we go back a week, Joe, go back in time, his original email does in fact posit a similar but subtly different theory on the infamous line. He says, Paxton and Hunt are searching for a place to take shelter and come across this shed filled with lethal-looking farming tools. Hunt says, "Who are these people?" As in, what kind of lunatics have all this stuff? Paxton's line, "I don't think so," isn't a response to this, but him thinking out loud, as in, if we stay in here when the Twister arrives, we'll be mincemeat. So I think he's saying, I don't think we should stay in here. That's always been my take on it anyway. Could be wrong.
Yeah, but that's what I said.
It's not exactly.
Yeah, because he sees the stuff about to fly at him and he's like, "Nah, I don't think so. This is no longer a..."
No, but you originally posited that was a sort of like sassy action movie line.
Yeah, but why can't it be?
It
can be both.
Well, I'll tell you why it can't be, Joe.
Why?
Because Kevin has emailed a third time. And this is going
three times.
above and beyond from Kevin, our listener from Dublin. So he says, "All right, gents, let's put this to bed."
Okay.
So he's going to solve Twistergate for us.
Well, I'd like to see him try.
Don't ask me how I got hold of this, but below is a photo of page 176 of Twister, the original screenplay, written by Michael Crichton and Anne-Marie Martin, and published in paperback in May 1996. And he's included photos, which I can confirm are genuine.
How can you confirm that?
We've had it independently verified.
Yeah.
So here is the part that pertains to the sequence in question. Bill and Joe take cover in a large shed, which is full of sickles, scythes, reapers, and hay rakes, curving sharp metal blades that hang on the walls and stand on the ground, gleaming in the light. Bill, "Not in here." Still gasping, they run out again. "Not in here" is the original line that's in the screenplay. So clearly, he says, they played around with the line, and the addition of Hunt's "Who are these people?" clearly confuses matters. The basic meaning is there, Kevin says, twistle clear. Very nice. For all to see, Bill doesn't think the shed is a good idea, hence, "I don't think so." Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go reassess the direction of my life. Shamefully, Kevin.
Well, Kevin's a sharp tack,
Yeah.
quick as a whip.
I have to say, that is sterling listener work.
It is. And
to seek out the original screenplay.
Frankly,
so basically that puts
if-
to bed your theory that he is saying it as a sassy one-liner.
But
at
why
some
can't it be
climax.
both?
Because it doesn't relate to the script that he has dug out through contacts and getting his hands dirty. I'd imagine money is exchanged hands.
Yeah.
Considerable sums.
If, let's just say, for instance, John McClane was in the movie.
Yeah.
And he'd run into that building and he looked up and there were sickles and scythes and he goes, I don't think so. And then ran out. That's how I see the film.
But my issue with it is that while that works on the page, in the context of the film, they've already been inside the barn for a few moments, enough time for it to lose its impact as a one-liner.
Yeah.
And also, in between them arriving and that line, Helen Hunt says, "Who are these people?" And he says, "I don't think so."
Yeah, but
which confuses it, to the point of it being incoherent.
Okay. Well, let's agree on two things.
Basically,
one,
right? Okay, so Kevin has laid down a gauntlet. Okay, so next level listener participation. Someone get Jan de Bon on the phone for us.
Yeah.
Jan de Bon. I will also, as a compromise, take Helen Hunt or Holly Hunter.
Yeah.
She might have some words to say.
Insight,
Yeah. I think, as far as I'm concerned, Twistergate is put to bed in the sense that the intended meaning was, I don't think so, meaning this isn't a good place to stay, but it has very much got lost in translation.
I agree. And to any listeners who aren't Kevin from Dublin, do better.
Yeah, Kevin from Dublin has set the bar.
Yeah. What he's done there is done thorough extracurricular research to solve a problem we posited on this show.
Yeah.
Now, all you people, email in your How to Survive ideas.
Yeah,
email in your suggestions for movies.
Yeah, HowToSurviveShow@gmail.com.
Yeah, we'll read them. But as Kevin's found, we won't necessarily read them out.
Yeah.
Because it's a tough job reading that. I mean, I've got my Groupon goes in this email account.
Yeah.
Twitter. And various YouTube updates. Now, I can't be expected to read and remember every email we get.
Sorry, is this the bit of the show when we're trying to encourage people to email in?
Yeah.
Great. That email address again is howtosurviveshow@gmail.com.
Yeah.
You can also get in touch on Twitter, which is @howtosurvivepod. Next week, Joe, it's episode 100.
The big 100.
Yeah.
3 figures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. We're getting another person on the podcast. That's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kevin from Dublin is going to join us in studio.
Yeah. Next week is, of course, episode 100.
Yes.
And it's the start of a new dawn, new era in the House 5 podcast. And that's because we're going to venture into another franchise, Joe.
Yeah.
And what franchise is that?
Well, I hope the audience like anticlimaxes.
Yeah.
Episode 100. It's a big episode.
Yeah.
It's not every week your podcast gets to 100 unbroken consecutive weeks of content. Over 100 hours of non-stop entertainment.
Yeah.
And the movie we've chosen to celebrate that is Paranormal Activity.
Yeah.
2009.
Modern classic.
Yeah.
Joe.
Yeah.
And so, every 10 weeks we'll be covering another Paranormal Activity movie, which is, in many ways, Joe, it's a bit of a blessing because there are far fewer sequels than there were for the Friday the 13th franchise.
It's only going to take a little over a year to get through those. So.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but don't worry, we're still going to be finishing up Friday the 13th as well. And that is the week after that we venture into
Freddy versus Jason.
Yeah, that's going to be good.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Right.
Until next week, get your emails in. Tell us what you think of the last 100 episodes. We want to read out as much of your input as possible, and we won't forget a single one of them. And maybe you've written a poem about how to survive. Maybe you've written a song about how to survive. Maybe you've written a small novella or a fan fiction about how to survive. We want to see it.
Yeah.
We want to celebrate it. We want you to join us for next week for our 100th birthday bonanza. When we cover Paranormal Activity.
100th birthday.
Well, podcasts do have different birthdays, don't they?
Yeah, but a birthday is a year?
Only in the sense of mammals. Like, what? Who's to say what?
Let's not. We haven't got time for this.
We've got time for this. Who's to say what a birthday is? Maybe it's my birthday today.
It's not your birthday today.
Well, in a way, it is.
How many birthdays do you have every year?
How
many birthdays do you have a year?
As many as you want. Who's to say?
Forget it.